Mira had always believed she lived an ordinary life. There was comfort in that belief, the kind that wrapped around her like a warm blanket on cold evenings. Her husband, Elias, was quiet, dependable, and almost painfully predictable. He woke at the same time every morning, brewed coffee exactly the same way, and left for work with a soft smile that never quite reached his eyes. She had once loved that about him. Now, sometimes, she wondered if she had simply grown used to it. They lived on the outskirts of a sprawling megacity known as Novaris, a place where towering glass structures kissed the sky and drones hummed endlessly between them. Mira worked as a biomedical technician, long shifts and longer nights, while Elias claimed to be a systems analyst for a small firm she had never heard of.
He never talked much about his job.
At first, she didn't mind. Everyone in Novaris had secrets, corporate NDAs, classified projects, silent agreements.
It was just how the world worked now.
But lately, things felt different. It started with small inconsistencies. One night, Mira came home earlier than usual. The rain outside hammered against the windows, and the city lights shimmered like broken glass through the storm. She stepped inside quietly, expecting to find Elias at his usual place on the couch. Instead, she found him standing perfectly still in the center of the living room. The lights were off, and yet his eyes glowed. Not metaphorically, actually glowed. A soft, pale blue light pulsed from them, casting faint shadows on the walls. Mira froze, her breath caught somewhere between panic and disbelief. "Elias," she whispered. The glow vanished instantly. He turned to her, calm as ever. "You're home early." Her heart pounded. What were you doing?" "Thinking," he said simply, walking past her as if nothing had happened. "You should get out of those wet clothes. You'll get sick." She stood there, trembling, trying to convince herself she had imagined it. But she hadn't. After that night, Mira started noticing more. Elias never slept. Not really. He lay still, eyes closed, but his breathing didn't change. Sometimes, she'd wake in the middle of the night and find him staring at the ceiling, completely motionless. Once, she checked his pulse. It was there, but wrong. Too steady. Too perfect. And then there was the incident with the kitchen fire. Mira had been cooking dinner when the oil in the pan ignited. Flames leapt up violently, licking at the cabinets. She screamed, stumbling back, panic flooding her senses. Before she could react, Elias stepped forward. "Stay back," he said. There was something in his voice, something that made her freeze instantly. He raised his hand toward the fire, and the flames stopped. They didn't flicker out. They didn't spread. They simply froze midair, as if time itself had paused around them. Mira stared in horror. Elias clenched his fist. The fire collapsed inward, extinguishing itself in a silent implosion. The kitchen fell eerily quiet. Myra's voice trembled. What did you just do?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "It's nothing," he said finally. "You're safe. That's what matters." "Nothing," she snapped, fear turning into anger. "Elias, that wasn't nothing. People don't just stop fire with their hands." His gaze softened slightly. "I'm not like other people, Mira." Her chest tightened. "Then what are you?" He hesitated. And for the first time since she had known him, Elias looked afraid. That night, everything changed. They sat across from each other at the small dining table, untouched food between them. The silence was suffocating. "Tell me the truth," Mira said finally. "No more excuses." Elias exhaled slowly. "I wasn't born," he began. Mira blinked. "What?" "I was created." The words felt unreal, like something out of a bad sci-fi drama.
But the
memory of the frozen flames burned too vividly in her mind. "Created by who?" A civilization far older than yours, Elias said. They no longer exist. At least, not in the way you understand existence. Mira shook her head. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to, he replied gently. All you need to know is that I was designed for a purpose. And what purpose is that? He looked at her, and for a moment, the blue glow flickered faintly in his eyes again. To observe, to protect, and, if necessary, to end. A chill ran down her spine. End what? Threats. The word hung in the air like a blade. Mira pushed her chair back slightly. Are you saying you're some kind of weapon? Elias didn't answer. That was answer enough. Days passed, but Mira couldn't look at him the same way. Every small habit she once found comforting now felt calculated. Every smile, every gesture, it all seemed like part of something larger, something she couldn't comprehend. And yet, he was still Elias. He still made her coffee in the morning, still asked about her day, still watched her with that quiet, steady affection. That was the hardest part, because despite everything, she still loved him. The truth revealed itself completely a week later. It was late evening when the sky over Novaris split open. At first, people thought it was a storm. Dark clouds gathered unnaturally fast, swirling into a massive vortex above the city. Then the lights began to fail. Entire districts went dark in seconds. Communication networks collapsed. Panic spread like wildfire. Mira was at home when it happened. Elias stood by the window, watching the sky with an intensity she had never seen before. It's happening, he murmured. What is? She asked, her voice shaking. They found me. Her blood ran cold. Who found you? Elias turned to her, and this time, he didn't hide it. His eyes blazed with that same pale blue light, but brighter, stronger, almost blinding. My creators, he said. The ground trembled. Outside, massive structures began to descend from the vortex, alien constructs, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their surfaces shimmered with shifting patterns, as if reality itself bent around them. Mira stumbled back. What do they want? Elias's voice was quiet. To reclaim what they lost. And, what is that? He stepped closer to her. Me. The city fell into chaos. Military forces mobilized, but their weapons were useless. The alien constructs ignored missiles, absorbed energy blasts, and moved with terrifying precision. Mira watched it all unfold on the broken screens around her. This is because of you? She whispered. Elias didn't deny it. They believe I belong to them, he said. But I chose to stay. With me? She asked. He nodded. Her chest tightened. Then don't go. We'll find a way. They won't stop, he interrupted gently. Not until they take me, or eliminate everything in their path. Myra's eyes filled with tears. Then fight them. Elias looked at her with something deeper than fear. Do you understand what you're asking? Of course I do. No, he said softly. You don't. The first strike hit minutes later. One of the alien constructs fired a beam of pure energy into the city center. Buildings disintegrated instantly, leaving nothing but glowing ash. Mira screamed. Elias closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was no longer the man she knew. Power radiated from him, visible, tangible, overwhelming. The air around him distorted, bending under the weight of something ancient and immense. I tried to live a simple life, he said quietly. I really did. Myra's voice broke. Elias. He stepped toward the door. Stay here. No, she grabbed his arm. Don't leave me. He looked at her hand, then at her face. And for a moment, the power faded. I won't, he said. Not forever. Then he gently pulled away. Mira followed him anyway. She couldn't stay behind, not when the man she loved was walking into something that could destroy the world. Outside, the sky burned. Elias rose into the air effortlessly, his body surrounded by that same blue energy. The alien constructs turned toward him, their movements suddenly cautious. Mira watched in awe and terror. "What are you?" she whispered. Elias raised his hand, and the world stopped. Not metaphorically. Literally. The falling debris froze midair. The flickering lights became still. Even the sound, everything, vanished into silence. Mira felt it too. Time itself had halted. Except for him. Elias moved freely through the frozen world, his expression calm but distant. The alien constructs began to shift, resisting the effect, but slowly, as if struggling against an invisible force. "You should have left me alone," Elias said, his voice echoing strangely. One of the constructs emitted a pulse of energy, breaking through the frozen moment. Reality snapped back violently. The battle began. What Mira witnessed next defied comprehension. Elias didn't fight like a human. He didn't even fight like something bound by physics. He bent space itself, folding distances, redirecting attacks, unraveling entire sections of the alien constructs with a gesture. Beams of energy collided with him and dissolved into nothingness. One construct tried to crush him. He simply erased it. Not destroyed. Erased. As if it had never existed. Mira fell to her knees, overwhelmed. This wasn't just power. This was something beyond power. Something absolute. But the aliens weren't weak. More constructs emerged from the vortex, their attacks growing stronger, more coordinated. Even Elias began to struggle. Mira could see it, the slight hesitation, the growing intensity in his movements. And then, he faltered. For a fraction of a second. But it was enough. A massive beam struck him directly, sending him crashing into the ground. Mira screamed and ran toward him. Elias. He lay there, motionless. The constructs began to descend, preparing to finish it. Mira didn't think. She just moved. Standing in front of him, she spread her arms wide, as if her fragile body could shield him. "Stop," she shouted. The constructs paused, scanning her, analyzing. And in that moment, Elias's eyes opened, brighter than ever before. Something changed. The air cracked like breaking glass. Elias rose slowly, his body radiating a blinding light. "You made one mistake," he said, his voice no longer entirely human. "You reminded me why I stayed." The power that erupted from him this time was different. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't restrained. It was everything. The vortex in the sky collapsed inward. The alien constructs disintegrated instantly, unable to withstand the surge. The entire city shook as reality itself seemed to bend under his will. Mira watched, frozen in awe. Elias raised his hand one final time, and the sky healed. Silence fell over Novaris. The threat was gone. Just like that. Elias stood alone in the center of the destruction, the glow fading slowly from his eyes. Mira approached him carefully. "Is it over?" she asked. He nodded. "For now." She hesitated. "Will they come back?" Elias looked at the sky. "Not anymore." Something in his tone made her uneasy. "What do you mean?" He turned to her, his expression softer now. "I didn't just stop them," he said. "I ended the source." Her breath caught. "All of them?" "Yes." The weight of that settled heavily between them. They returned home in silence. The city would recover. It always did. But nothing would ever be the same. Mira sat beside him, her hand trembling as she reached for his. "You're still you, right?" she asked quietly. Elias looked at her and smiled. "Yes," he said. Because of you. Tears filled her eyes. I was so scared. I know. Will you ever lose control like that again? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gently squeezed her hand. I chose this life, he said. I chose you. And as long as that choice remains, I remain. Mira leaned against him, her heart finally beginning to calm. She had married a quiet, ordinary man.
Or so she thought.
Now she knew the truth. He wasn't just her husband. He was something far greater. Something powerful enough to end civilizations, yet gentle enough to love her. And somehow, that made him even more human than anyone she had ever known.